This video shows how to weave paper with 2 layers. First weaving the top layer with black and the bottom layer with white, then lifting the white to the top layer and weaving white on the top layer and black on the bottom layer. Then in the third portion, black is the top layer and the white is the bottom layer, with one area where the white comes forward. This is known as double weave pickup. This tutorial will show you how to work through double weave pickup using 1/4 inch strips of cardstock. In this video, an abstract form is woven with the white layer coming from the bottom to the top. This method can also be used to weave more complex patterns, shapes, and even letters. To get started, cut cardstock into 1/4 inch wide strips lengthwise. A total of 60 strips will be needed, 30 strips of each color. You will need one color for the top layer and one color for the bottom layer. Using a self-healing cutting mat, a ruler, and a rotary cutter is helpful. Line the ruler 1/4 inch from the edge of the paper and cut lengthwise, carefully while pushing down on the ruler. Make sure to keep your fingers out of the way of the blade. This method can also be used with an X-Acto knife. Instead of pushing as you're cutting, it's important to pull the X-Acto knife. With a self-healing cutting mat, the measurements on the mat can be used as a guide for cutting. A paper cutter is another option for cutting the paper into 1/4 inch strips. Repeat this process with both colors, the color for the top layer and the color for the bottom layer. 30 strips of each color will be needed for this tutorial. It is best to cut several extras. To get started, find a clean surface to work on. It is best to find an area that can be left intact between sessions of weaving or that can be transported to a safe space when not weaving. To begin, the warp will be glued next to one another. I prefer Eileen's quick dry tacky glue. Any glue can work. Begin by pouring out a small amount of tacky glue. One strip will be needed horizontally across the top to glue the warp to. This video shows the glue being applied to the paper with a skewer. A toothpick or another object can be used. Only a small amount of glue will be needed at a time. First, take one strip, placing it horizontally across the workspace. Use a ruler to line up the piece of paper. With masking tape, create a double-sided tape to secure the piece of paper to the workspace. This helps when weaving, so the weaving doesn't shift as you are working. With the double-sided tape, tape both ends of the paper to the workspace. It is important to place the tape under the paper instead of taping from the top to the bottom, otherwise the tape will get in the way of the warp. Use the ruler to make sure the paper is lined up horizontally on the workspace. The ruler will remain while the warp is glued to the horizontal piece of paper. Use the lines of the ruler to line up the paper, making sure the paper is glued perpendicular to the horizontal piece of paper. Glue the warp to the horizontal paper using the 1/4 inch cut strips of paper. Use a small dab of glue on the top left corner. Glue the paper vertically to the horizontal paper, using the ruler as a guide to ensure that there is a 90-degree angle where the two pieces of paper meet. This first piece of paper is the color of the top layer. The next piece of paper will be glued next to the first one on the right side, using the paper that is the color of the bottom layer. This pattern will continue across the entire weaving. It is important when gluing the next piece of paper to the warp to allow a small amount of space between the two pieces of paper. There should be approximately 1/16 of an inch to 1/32 of an inch between the two pieces of paper. This allows for the different layers of paper to be woven through each other. Continue this process all the way across the warp. This warp will contain 21 pieces of paper, 11 pieces of black paper, and 10 pieces of white paper. The black paper, which is the top layer, will have one more piece of paper than the white paper. This is so the outsides of the weaving are the same color, creating more symmetry.